My name is Evan Muir. I'm the writer-director of S.T.A.L.K.E.R. Shadow of the Zone. So the initial concept came in around 2022, which was a discussion between Isaiah and myself. Like, you can come up with the kinds of stories that you want. Like, oh, we wanted a group of guys going out into the zone to find something, and like, came to like, okay, what are they looking for? Why do they need to get it? And you work backwards to the problem. All stories are about conflicts, and all conflicts are about problems. So you go, okay, what's the problem that the characters have to solve? Then basically just did a bunch of deep dives into the lore, finding anything that we could find that was interesting and that we could draw on for any given story idea that would be a nice sort of fun callback to the games, while also making it kind of new and interesting and not just a series of references to the material. Because the fan service stuff is fun, but if you want stuff that you've already seen and nothing else, you can play the games. I want to show people something that feels like it's emergent and could exist in the setting, and that was pretty much what we stuck with for the entire project. Is we wanted something that people felt strange and unknown about and suspicious about, and create tension and anxiety that you're going into this weird place and you don't know what's going to be there, which is what most new players feel when they're playing the games for the first time. If we just did the Wish Granter or something like that, it would not feel the same. Just drawing on sort of the big themes, the noosphere, sea consciousness, and trying to cook something that was very spooky in relation to that. I will say not much more, because I want people to use their own imagination to see what we were maybe referring to when we made it.
I'm Stephen Hancock. I am one of the directors and cinematographer for S.T.A.L.K.E.R. Shadow of the Zone. So having the opportunity to work at a real nuclear power plant facility was pretty cool, especially since it was period accurate. The facility had shut down in 1979, so all of the instruments, all of the surrounding environment, even like, the plumbing and everything was accurate to the zone from the game, because Chernobyl happened in 1986.
It's kind of the only place you can get anything like that, because it has
everything we needed that was in the script. It had woods, it had
crew housing, it has a cafeteria, like a pretty legit set. There's some areas that like we just would not have been able to get, like the control room,
labyrinth type hallways. It also worked out that it was a training facility for the Department of Defense for counterterrorism. So the whole place is just shot up and destroyed and super rusted out. But we made it work. It was definitely probably one of the coolest locations I've ever shot at.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many great little spots in that, and you couldn't hardly use them all unless you did like a feature film that literally just took place there and nowhere else, and like inside those buildings. Like, there's so many places. It's really a cool space, and I'm really happy they let us use it. I mean, like way back in the day, we're just using the tools that we have at hand, which at the time was like, when I was a kid, was like video games. We would use Halo to make stuff, and the whole time you're thinking, okay, this is what we have to work with. What stories can we tell with this? And now, of course, none of it was very good, but it's all practice for learning to work with what you have available and playing your hand to the best of your ability. The thing that changes once you start going to live action is the stakes get much higher. So once we started going into this, it's like, okay, we're starting to pour money into it. People are bringing a certain degree of expectations to us. And especially once it starts to go to a certain degree of viral, people start treating you differently. They start being a lot more harsh on you. Even if you're working with a budget that could get you a loaf of Wonder Bread, it doesn't matter. But it's sort of funny thinking about the stuff that stays the same. Because like back in the day when we were just dorks using video games to make stuff, you'd use the little machine gun that you get in the game, and you go, okay, you, and then I shoot there, you start there, you go there, you do that, and then you tell them to tell it back to you, and you say, okay, show me how you're gonna do it, and then you say action, and then they do it. With this, I had a little green laser, and I'll go, okay, you start there, you run there, tell it back to me, and it's like, I'm standing up on a high place where I can see everybody. I'm like, this is the same thing. And then, of course, like the biggest difference is between you're going from voice acting to live action acting, and it's completely different. Because back in the day, I could just abuse the voice actors over and over and be like, nope, say it this way, say it exactly like this, say it exactly like this. And I would interrupt them in the lines and I'd go, nope, we're gonna do it like this. Cannot do anything like that with real actors, or live action actors, I should say. And of course, the biggest one is time. So when we were working on stuff way back in the day, we had as much time as we wanted. And this, nope. You don't have as much time on set as you'd ever want. Don't have as much time to work on it as you'd want. We still figured it out, but it's good kind of pressure sometimes you need a fire under your ass.
I'll try to keep it in mind.
Good.
I watched the original Stalker film, and I wanted to kind of match that aesthetic, that film look. So I really went out of my way to kind of make the film look vibrant when they're outside. Like the trees look green, the sky is blue, and all of that, but it still feels cold and isolating. But one of the biggest things that I wanted to add was the texture of the image. And I did some research, and I found that whenever you take pictures of anything in Chernobyl, the radiation actually damages the film. So it has a very grainy, like a color grain kind of texture to it. All throughout the film, you're gonna see like these little white dots, these black dots and hairs and stuff show up, and the grain has a very crunchy texture to it. And I had a couple people at the New York showing come up and say like, hey, you guys, you did that because of this, right? And even though it was only, a couple people that noticed it, that really matters to me, because it's like, okay, cool, people do take note of that. Even adding in things to the background, like it's very important that you don't ignore your background. So we didn't really have a full production design team when we were there, so we just were only able to focus on what was in the foreground. So in post, I had to add things way in the background. So like in the night op, when they come around this corner, you see this big firefight happening way in the distance. I had to add that in post. That was a very daunting task, but I was pretty happy with how it turned out. Doing sky replacements, adding just junk in the scene to really kind of sell where they are is, there have been other people here in the past, and there's just crap everywhere, All these little details that when you're there, you think, oh, this space looks fine. Like these walls look fine, they look dirty and all that, and then when you get into post, they're not. So I had to... The whole control room scene, all the dirt and muck that's on the walls, I had to add all of that. That's all retextured walls. We had our VFX supervisor, Majid. He, during the raid sequence through that hallway, all of those walls were hand-tracked textures because they were just white. That's just how they showed up on film. And it just looked like they were running through, like a casual office building. And we had to really dirty everything later to really sell the atmosphere of the zone. I kind of feel like that's something that's very overlooked, and a lot of people just think, oh, only nerds are going to care about that, or people who are like hyper fans. It's like, yeah, but it's important, because it's not only, you're not only catering to them, you also want other people who watch it to really feel that atmosphere and get them interested to go, wow, this looks really cool, I want to go look into this. And we've had a lot of people that have actually, who've seen it so far, they've told us that. They said, I don't know anything about these games, but now I want to. And that's why those little details are important.
Fuck yeah. That's awesome. That's a lot of fucking work.
Dude, it sucked. Like, I had to learn how to do all the gun stuff.
There's a fucking shitload of them there! Fuck! No fucking shit!
Even the weapons, for example. So all of the mercenaries are running suppressed rifles. And even with the sound, suppressed weapons, they're still loud. They're not quiet at all. It just disperses sound. It puts you there in their shoes. It really allows you to take in everything that's happening and get your heart racing throughout the entire firefight, because all these little details we paid attention to, like explosions sound like this needs to be more concussive. There needs to be bullet cracks when they're going right by them, because that's exactly what happens in real life. It's not only just for, the nerds and all that. It's also something that, in that context of a firefight, I want the audience to feel like they are there. This is what it is like to actually be in a gunfight. Just gripping your seat, Small details matter. They're important.
The other thing is, the gunshots themselves were not built on recordings. They were built using FM8 and a couple of samples. So you would need samples for the bolt in the rifle, but for the rest of it, you can make that custom using FM8. So it's a synthesizer that we would build, and we would match it to what a gunshot sounds like, and then basically compress it and add reverb. Yeah, built it from scratch using references of suppressed weapons and unsuppressed weapons. So basically anything in that you hear None of it is a recording. All built by our sound designer, Daniel, from the ground up.
The most endearing part of the shoot is the night op sequence.
Literally the first time this has ever fucking been done in, like, I believe in, like, movie history.
Oh, absolutely.
Completely all night, natural light lit by the fucking moon.
Yeah, the only lights that are on right now are on their nods.
We ended up using the Sony a7S III, or its cinema counterpart, the FX3, because it was the only camera that exists today that can actually pull in that much light from just moonlight alone. And I had always wanted to shoot a scene in natural moonlight, just to kind of, just to see if I could do it. The mistake that I didn't know was that once you go above a certain exposure, the camera stops picking up stars. So in post, I had to composite all of the stars that you see. They're real stars that were just shot on a different day, but I had to track all of those in to kind of make it look like this is what it actually looked like when we were there. You could see all of these stars, and that really sold the fact that, like, oh wow, this actually looks good blown up on a screen. It looks like it was shot in moonlight. And I think it's probably one of my favorite sequences that I've ever captured.
We had practice 4 days in advance prior to filming because the nods that you're seeing,
Can you see anything?
Not shit.
they're not real night vision.
Essentially walking the distance of this shot, which is a oneer,
Yep.
blind.
Yeah, because if we had real nods, I
We
mean,
don't have real nods, so
the budget of the film would have to be about twice as much.
yeah.
Yeah, so they blast your eyes with light. You can barely see anything, and if you're lucky, you can maybe see where your feet are. And so for the 4 days of prep that we had, we basically we ran drills.
It was very important that when they were running through their training during the day, that they not only remember their footwork, but applying that when they can't literally see anything at all, and just vaguely. It not only did it help on the safety side of things, but it really added to the authenticity of their movements, which a lot of people pointed out that the mercenaries looked very, neatly stacked and tightly woven together as they moved as a group, and then, Brain and Crow they're just two regular guys, and they're kind of disorganized, and they're just doing their own thing.
The second you put the nods on, everything else is dark because basically everybody's getting picture ready. It was cool. It was very, very cool. It felt like you were literally in the zone.
Dude, it's nice and slow too.
Cool.
Yeah.
I thought they looked good.
Yeah, they look good. Yeah.
I agree.
Very cool.
When they get to this, when they look, we'll cut to the
You guys look fucking amazing.
Crow looks fucking sick, bro.
Crow looks good too.
That fucks so hard.
When it came to the loadout for Crow, if I was there in this guy's shoes, what would I have on me? So we tried to do like a blend of Eastern Bloc gear and Western gear. So like the plate carrier, for example, is the only thing that's Western that he's running. And we kind of alluded to the fact that he's been there for so long that he probably took that off of like a dead mercenary at some point. But everything else that he's wearing is all, Eastern Bloc gear. He's running a Smersh kit, running a Russian Gorka, GP5 mask and everything. So, and even running a VSS. So we really wanted to, make it feel like it wasn't too on the nose of like, oh yeah, this character lives here, so he's only going to have this stuff. It's like, yeah, but realistically, somebody in the real world is going to kind of take whatever they can get just so you can survive in a very hostile environment like that. So we kind of allowed his character to have some nuances with the gear. Even though it's not too one-on-one with the games, we kind of wanted to have some aesthetic that was true to the games, but also something that was still grounded in reality.
Seeing as we can use the plastic on the doors.
So the Merc's design was a massively iterative process, and we were even kind of designing all the way up to shooting. So the first question we had to ask is, okay, we know this takes place many, many years after Shadow of Chernobyl for story-related reasons, so do we keep the gear exactly the way it is, or do we update it? I had looked at different sort of cosplays online of the mercenaries, and some of them were pretty good and some of them were tough, because blue is a very odd color to go with, especially as a primary color for a faction. It's very, very useful for a video game because it's supposed to help you quickly identify which faction is which. But for a movie, I was not sure how well it would translate to camera. We can keep the blue, but how do we use it? And it became an accent color for a lot of the gear, and then we were sort of going through, okay, what are the different ways that we can include blue? And we go, okay, well, there's the nets on the helmet, there's the phone cases, there's of course the patches, and then the choice to update it was also just convenience because we had a very, very small window of time. So we knew we had contacts that would just give us what we needed, give us the gear that we needed. I know a friend of ours, Kevin, was at SHOT Show talking to different companies, getting everything that we would work with, and we knew people who would be able to set up those rigs, be able to set up those kits very quickly.
Teamed up with Spiritus Systems with their plate carriers, hardhead veterans for their fast bump helmets and everything, because they just had a nice profile. Mirror safety for their removable tapper masks, which was very important because they were all magnetically attached to their helmets. When we were shooting Overlord, an issue we ran into is that people were very uncomfortable wearing those masks. And we wanted a quick release system to where, all right, when you're doing this, you just pull it to the side and you can breathe again, and nobody's uncomfortable, you're not sweating, you know, getting gross and such. The hoodies that they wore were a product of my friend Jeremy in Japan. He goes by AEM01, and he makes these tactical hoodies. So it was really cool getting to use a combat uniform that isn't really on the market or isn't really used yet, and it kind of gives you that unique silhouette.
We had already worked with it. We already knew the problems that we would have to deal with. It was a lot of different things coming together for that. Then we sort of go, okay, well, this is our base idea. We have the hoodie, the navy pants, the helmet, phone case, Spiritus rig.
And so each character kind of has their own kit built out depending on what their job is, which was done by our military advisor, Fred Baker. You could kind of tell by what they're using, even the weapons that they're using, the type of person they are. It really kind of brings out their personality as well. Even the watches, the knives that they have. It was something that was really fun to kind of make it look as cool as possible, but functional, but something that could also be real today if it was happening as we speak.
Yeah, we're very happy with it. I think people are going to be, I think it's a design that's going to stick in people's heads. It's at one point during the briefing, and I'll probably ruin the scene for anybody that's going to watch it now, Scott was repeating the line, "Duty will be running interference," so many times that it became hilarious to everyone and just kept cackling. And then me, being mischievous, devilish, in need of tomfoolery, decided to walk up to him and whisper something in his ear. And then I, of course, go back and we start rolling again, and then Scott, a middle-aged man who does not know anything about what people post online or anything, goes up to everyone and he goes, Gentlemen,
there's an imposter among us.
When you see that shot of Isaiah, he's like nodding his head in the chair, looking on. That was the only 3 seconds of footage I could get of him where it did not look like he was about to lose his shit.
Oh my God, he's holding it. He is holding
He's
it.
going to be running interference.
There's a shot that'll make it in of Carlos and his footwork that I think you guys are going to enjoy seeing.
Just in the picture. So what hole they dig you out of? James.
Give me a second and I'll set it up.
Oh, shit.
Yoko's fucking. Wait, fuck, I forgot.
Fucking beautiful. Let's go.
Yeah.
You're dead as fuck.
I love my job. I'm having so much fun right now.
Continuing in the great tradition of Stalker film adaptations, I'm like 90% sure we all inhaled asbestos at one point or another. So it's not looking good for me in the future, but at least we made the movie.
The elites don't want you to know this, but graphite is free. You can just pick it up off the ground. It won't kill you.
Okay, let's go.
I think the work that we've put in the past 2 years have been very fulfilling for not only, all of our careers and such, but a very colossal learning experience that we're going to be able to confidently apply to our future projects. So I do genuinely think that people are going to really appreciate and love the work that we've put into this project. Not only fulfilling the promise that we had made 2 years ago to our Kickstarter backers, but also to people who are fans of the game. And hearing a lot of the pre-reviews from people saying that they were engaged the whole time, they loved the characters, and it's been a very rough ride, but a privilege to be able to be there with these people and have that same experience. So I'm really excited to see what people think of it.
Outside of the crew, I think that there's also a specific group of people that deserve the utmost thanks and respect, which is every one of you guys who have donated and supported this project. You made a small little indie crew with dreams of trying to make a feature film into a legitimate thing. Your guys' movie, you had a billboard in Times Square, but it couldn't have happened if it wasn't for you. And your guys' movie changed my life. So, thank you.